Hi, everyone. I'm April DiPolina from the Connecticut Family Support Network, and this is another Connecticut Family Support Network conversation. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be here for this conversation. I have just uncovered, you have to excuse that, that's my phone ringing. I've just uncovered a great resource here in Southeastern Connecticut. It is the Child Passenger Safety Program, and it's sponsored by Lawrence Memorial Hospital, which is part of Yale New Haven Health here in New London. And so today with me are the two people that make this program work. We have Esther Pendola and Kelly Murphy. And I am going to let them each introduce themselves and tell you how they do this program. But I just want to put in a personal note. I work with a lot of families, and many of you know that I have a child that's very involved, an adult. And this is all about keeping your child safe in transporting. But we as parents don't always know what's available, what's out there. And for most of us, a lot of us have been scrambling around, improvising, and making things that work for our kids, which is why I'm so thrilled to have found this program. So I'm going to turn it over to Esther. And Esther, you can tell us about yourself, what background you have, and the program.
Sure. Again, my name is Esther Pendola. I am the Community Health Project Coordinator for L&M, Yale New Haven Health System. And my background is as a social worker. But for most of my professional career, my focus has been on child passenger safety. So I have been certified as a child passenger safety technician since 2001. So it's been a couple of years. And then I was an instructor starting in 2004. And so I teach the child passenger safety certification classes around the state. In addition, we have gone through additional training on transporting children with special healthcare needs. My focus has historically been kids with autism, children who I saw in the NICU or worked with helping their families find appropriate child restraint systems. So that is a little about what we do. We have a program currently where we check child passenger safety seats for families. We ensure that the child's in the right seat, that it's installed in the vehicle correctly, and that the family knows what the next steps are. And we do that every Thursday from 4 to 7 p.m. Currently, because of COVID restrictions, we've sort of put a pause on that, but we're hoping that once the visitor, we kind of go based on the visitor restrictions. So once the visitor restrictions change, we'll start our program back up there. So that's a little bit about the program, but both Kelly and I have this additional information that we love to be able to share. And also, Kelly has additional training that I'll let her talk about with school buses. So she's really able to help a family who needs that additional support and information regarding transporting in school buses. Kelly?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, April, for having us, or finding us, I should say. So my name is Kelly Murphy, and as Esther said, we together coordinate the Child Passenger Safety Program at Lawrence Memorial Hospital. And I've known Esther for going on 20 years now. So we are both child passenger safety technician instructors. I have been a technician since 2004, I believe, and an instructor since 2006. And my pretty much entire professional career is and has and probably will be child passenger safety. Again, I coordinate with other technicians that we've trained to come and work with us at L&M Hospital in our parking garage area. We are on restrictions right now, but I wanted to also mention that at the end of the presentation on our contact slide, we are doing virtual help as well in this COVID virtual time that we're all learning with. So families, we can meet via Zoom, via FaceTime. We can help families, over video, get their car seat in the car properly. And then again, when restrictions lift, we can invite families into the parking garage again. So I'm currently coordinating the inspection station at the hospital. I also do some contract work with car seat manufacturers. Esther and I have both contracted with Consumer Reports, which is up in Colchester at their test track, and we help them fit car seats to vehicles and really just focus on and eat and breathe and live child passenger safety and just keeping all children safe on the road, as safe as possible. So again, we do have the additional training in the special needs transportation. If we can't find the answer for you, we are certainly going to reach out to our contacts and get that information to you. And I'm really happy to be here because I really like the mission that April was discussing about just gathering the resources and knowing the players and knowing who to go to get that information. It may not be me, it may not be Esther, but we'll get someone that does know that answer and get it back to you.
That is exactly what we do in the network.
Awesome.
We will get you to somehow the person, the place where the information is. So that's great. Thank you both. And then I think you're going to start with, in the beginning, I guess,
Yes.
with a PowerPoint or some slides.
Sure. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Mhm.
Great.
Yep.
So we want to kind of go through some of these pretty quickly. But really our goal in talking today is to let folks know about the available resources. The resources being people, but also products and what there is available on the market.
So I'll jump in here and we'll go through, prematurity. This is set up as to kind of going with when the child is born all the way to when the child is potentially just riding in a seatbelt in the car. But when we talk about prematurity and that we see at the hospital, it's any child born before the 37 weeks. And the biggest concern is the low birth weight, okay, and the breathing issues. There are some conventional car seats out there that are very good that can accommodate a child that is of a low birth weight. And then there's some children that can't ride in a conventional car seat that needs a special needs type car seat. So what I want to focus on and just keep mentioning, and I may repeat myself here, is that the goal here with car seats and safe transportation of children in vehicles is to get them in a conventional, something that you can buy at Walmart, Target, online at Amazon. Try and get them in something that is accessible first, and with all needs. And if not, that's when we jump to another idea and get our people together and get things moving. So we'll go into the next slide. So there are currently, which this is super exciting. Currently there's 2 conventional, what we call infant or rear facing car seats on the market today that will accommodate a child beginning at 3 pounds. Esther and I have always said that if the child can breathe and go to the bathroom and eat, they're going to be discharged from the hospital. So there are currently 2 seats that are very accessible, that are fairly inexpensive. We want to make sure that if we are sending these little tiny babies home, that we want to make sure that we have the approval of the healthcare provider always, to make sure that the child is able to get into a conventional car seat. And many families that have experience in the NICU will also be familiar with what we call a car seat test. We want to make sure that the child is in their car seat properly, whatever they're traveling home in, so that we know that their breathing and their saturation doesn't drop on the way home. So that's why it's super important that we have the healthcare provided. Even though these seats say 3 pounds, we can put a 3-pounder in there. We want to make sure that the child is going to be able to travel safely in that seat. Perfect. There's also some lots and lots, and these are not all inclusive. These are just some popular examples that we see at the hospital. There's a lot more seats on the market today than there was 20 years ago for children beginning at 4 pounds. So, 4 pounds is pretty much the standard, 4 or 5 pounds. These children are going home in these, what we call the infant or the rear facing only seat. And there's also some of the bigger seats. For families that aren't familiar, they're called a convertible seat, and they are a car seat that will rear face. And then when the child is big enough, the seat turns around and the child will forward face. So those are called convertible seats. And there's actually a few on the market. And these are just examples. Again, this is not inclusive of the bigger seats that will accommodate the smaller child. However, again, we want to make sure that we're consulting with the team and the healthcare workers to make sure that these kids are okay. And these are all conventional, easily accessible. Go ahead. For children, go ahead, Esther. I'm sorry, April.
I have that's the beauty of being in the hospital situation, because you just mentioned you want to make sure the whole team is working on this. So I'm just moving you ahead a little bit here, because that's the beauty. You're in the hospital and you're not going to be discharged until you know that that child is safe in the car seat. And you mentioned that right in the hospital, they do the car seat check and all of that with the team. But so I'm moving you a little bit forward here to now you're home and your child's growing. What do you do on your own?
What do we, like when you change car seats? Is that kind of what you're asking? So, typically you're going to have that relationship with the healthcare providers, correct? But we are always a resource. If we can get a child to go home in a conventional car seat, that seat is going to grow with that child. So we're going to instruct the caregiver, instruct the parent. We're going to give them we're going to give them a lot of education. They're going to be sleep deprived, right? We're going to give them our information. They're going to be, because they give you a lot of information in the hospital, right? Not just what we're doing, but all kinds of stuff, right? So we are a resource. They can call us up. We can video chat them. When restrictions are lifted, they can come back. But that's the beauty of these car seat manufacturers that are making these car seats to accommodate these tiny babies. Those seats in the first few slides can accommodate a child from 3 to 35 pounds and 32 inches. So, we might get a whole year out of that car seat. That's the beauty of the conventional car seat.
Okay. And that's the thread too, because because I was just thinking, there's all this wraparound support, and then you're home and your child's growing and changing and where do you go? But you're still with hopefully your provider. And that would also give you a link to you as their needs change. Okay. Yep. I'm just trying to follow that through.
Yes, please ask, because sometimes, I get going here and I'm like, oh yeah, no, they don't really understand what I'm saying. But anyways, moving forward, if we do have a child that does not do well in a conventional car seat, there are what we call medical seats for low birth weight children. Car beds, as seen here, there's a few on the market. Again, these are not all inclusive. Again, as you can see, this, like in the first one, 9 pounds, up to 9 pounds and 20 inches. A conventional car seat, if we can get the child in there, will go up to 35 pounds and 32 inches, somewhere in that range. You see what? So these medical low birth weight car beds are limited. All right, they're not going to get a child through the first year of life. The Hope car bed definitely goes a little more, but the thing about the low birth weight car beds versus a conventional seat is these car beds are a little more difficult to get in the car correctly. They take up a lot of room in the back seat of the car. There might be other children, other passengers in the car. So I want to stress that these are a last resort. Yes, they are used, and yes, they are necessary. But again, if someone calls us and says, my provider, my hospital, my nurse, my pediatrician, my OT says my kid needs one of these, we'll help you through it. And again, they might be difficult to find. There are programs that have them, there are programs that don't have them, and we'll help you with that. But we want to exhaust all of our conventional needs first. So Again, so on the other end of the spectrum, obesity. So there's a lot of car seats for the tiny babies right now. There is currently a lack of higher weight limit conventional seats. The cost of when we get into medical seats for children that need a harness to a higher weight is very, very, very expensive. And then what happens is kids that really should be in a car seat or a booster seat, they're transitioning to just the seat belt prematurely. Okay, so we'll go into a couple more slides here. So currently there's one car seat on the market that has a harness that will secure a child to 85 pounds, this Maxi Cozy, right? However, it's not, that's what's in the picture. It's not super wide. So if we have a kid that's wide on the bottom, this isn't really going to be a good fit for them. It's crash tested till 85 pounds and it passes all the testing, but it doesn't fit a ton of 85-pound kids really well. However, it is an option that we can look into if we needed that. The majority of conventional seats on the market are rated up to 65 pounds. And there's a few examples. Again, that's not everything. There's more than that out there, but we can get a kid safely in a harness up to 65 pounds if need be. Beyond that, we may have to go into some other not conventional seats that we'll go into shortly here on the next slide.
And that becomes problematic, April, for a lot of families because of the state law. And the state law, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cal, is that children have to be harnessed to 5 years old, regardless of their weight. So if a child's 5 years old, but over that 65 pounds, it becomes really challenging for that family to follow the state law and transport their child. So that's just one of the
that's a phone call and a reach out to you guys to say what's out there.
Right.
So
then we might recommend a vest in that option.
Right. So these are actually two very accessible vests. They're not, in Target or Walmart or Amazon. They might be on Amazon. But anyways, again, if a vest is the conversation that we're having with a parent or a caregiver, you can see the Ride Safer vest on the right there. You can get a child all the way up to 110 pounds. This also works well. As you can see, it's a vest that the child wears that some children with special needs like that compression feeling. Yes. And they like that vest feeling. And this can be, either one of these can be put on in the home or in the school. The Easy On vest with the little girl standing up there, that can be used on a school bus. There's different accessories that go with it to make it work on a school bus, but that can be used on a school bus. And there's options and sizes for up to 168 pounds. And that vest also, the one that the model has on here, zippers in the back for those kids that like to get out of things. Yeah. They're little Houdinis, right? There's different models. So there is one that clips in the front. There's one that clips in the back. I do understand from feedback from caregivers that, sometimes they feel like this looks a little restrict. It looks like more like a restraint. So some families have an issue with that, or they don't really like that. Again, what we try and say is, if your child's getting out of their car seat or child restraint or seatbelt or whatever it may be in the car, that's not safe. And I know this isn't the prettiest looking thing, but if it keeps them safe in the car, that's kind of where we have to focus on. So then there are conventional booster seats for children that these can be found very easily. Again, not a complete list of them, but again, just showing that there are choices before you go the medical seat route. So when the conventional seat doesn't work, right? When we start to get into these conditions, neuro conditions, developmental delays, what Esther and I see, we see cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, a lot of, all right? And we see that the poor tone in the muscle tone, poor head control, poor trunk control, And, Down syndrome, sometimes there's GI tubes involved, again, reduced muscle tone. And again, this PowerPoint and this talk isn't inclusive of all conditions. And I know that, and Esther knows that, and April, you know that better than anybody. But this is just kind of an overview of what we see. Again, if your child has a condition or a diagnosis other than any of these, again, we can get you to the person that can help you with that. So what happens here is that we work with families, and that the child may require more support in the seat than a conventional car seat can offer. So the other thing is that, again, when we work with children that might not understand why they have to be in the car and buckled down, they like to try and get themselves out. Then there's the behavioral challenges, autism, right? Language delays, the sensitivity to the textures. I know that we get a lot of families that, maybe one seat doesn't work for them because the fabric, the child just does not like that fabric. And then we get them in something a little more plush, or we get them in a vest that they like to feel that, that pressure. They feel much better in that. Again, just choices. And again, the biggest concern with the kids that with the diagnosis of autism and the ADD and the ADHD is escaping from that seat. Man, Esther and I have seen these kids, and I am like, how the heck, the caregiver has done everything correct, and that child is in that seat 100%. And these kids are flexible, and they are getting out of these seats, and they're standing up in the back seat, So,
Yeah.
And it can be very frustrating, and you feel pretty isolated in that. I have a kiddo with some of these behaviors, and really I felt so lucky that I knew about the information on how to protect her, because otherwise I just wouldn't have known what to do. And so I was able to get what they call a Houdini piece, and it really keeps her in the seat, and it makes it so that she stays safe. So it's great to have those resources.
And that's true of the world in general, but just to take it to the special needs world, any given diagnosis, there's similarities amongst diagnoses in that, but no matter who or what the diagnosis, the child's an individual. So you can have a child with one diagnosis, but they have a personality that's totally different and requires something else. And that's where the family comes in, working with you guys. Each child's an individual, and what works for this one may not work for the other, but we got to keep them safe. So
absolutely, 100%. And that's why it's great that, again, I keep going back to the conventional route. It's great that these car seat manufacturers are listening to the feedback of people like Esther and I that are like, why don't we have this? Why don't we have that? And things do take a while, but in the 20 years that we've been doing this, things have come a long way. So, which is fantastic. These are some what we call medical seats, and there is a company that is called Merit, and they make a whole line of medical seats for kids with all kinds of different diagnoses, and they offer different accessories to help the child more positioned in the car. So there's that soft headrest for kids, that have texture, that don't like certain textures. There's also the little guy in the center there. That's like a baseball cap with some Velcro on it that just kind of holds the child back, holds their head back. So a child that might need a little more head support. It's just a little piece of Velcro. Amazing. And I'm sure some of your families, April, use Velcro to hold things down or back. And, they're like, here's somebody who took it to the next level and, put it in a car seat to make it work.
I have to tell you, my daughter is 33. And when she was around, 2 or 3, we were getting leg braces, etc. And I still to this day will say, I am so lucky that she was born into the time of Velcro. I mean, it holds the special needs world together in so many ways.
Oh, that's interesting. That's so interesting. I talk about duct tape in my house like that, but yes, Velcro.
Yeah, 'cause
And
think
then
of the alternative. Think of what we were doing before Velcro. Buckle
right.
and leather and clips.
Oh,
I
and
could
then
say I might be lucky.
the picture on the far right there is showing an extra support piece that goes between the legs so that prevent the submarining of the child. So again, you can see that these seats, they come in, there's even a camo seat in there, and try and make these as conventional looking as possible. They are heavy, they are expensive, but we want kids to like them and be in them. So we're making them in not me, but Merit is making them in different colors, and they do, go this one 115 pounds and 62 inches. So we can get a very good size child or young adult in that seat safely. And then here's another Merit product. This one is called the Churchill. This one sits on a traditional vehicle seat. Again, this is for a larger child or a young adult. It starts at 65 pounds. So, we're not putting a young child in here, 65 pounds, all the way up to 175 and then 72 inches. And again, what's really cool about Merit is they offer these accessories. And I want to just mention that they can customize a lot of these seats as well. So there's a standard seat, and then they can customize it. So maybe, again, I'll go back to the texture because that's what I'm most familiar with. Maybe the child has an issue with, the way one fabric feels, and they can customize the fabric for the child or the color. It's important that the child like what they're riding in, across the board. We don't want to put them in something that they don't like. That's crossing checking one box right there in the beginning. And then this one looks very similar to the Roosevelt, but the Chamberlain, the child is sitting on the vehicle seat. There's no bottom underneath it. And again, all the way up to 225 pounds. And, I keep saying child, but young adult, adult, anyone that needs extra support in the vehicle, 225 pounds, and you have to be at least 1248, what's that, 4 foot? You have to be at least 4 foot tall. So again, these are not readily available. These medical seats are not readily available on Amazon, Target, Walmart, those places. But again, circling back around to being the resource that can help you get to the person to get you this. And, you get the device, you get the car seat, you get the vest you need. And, Esther and I can help you get it in the car properly and give you the education on it. What do we got here? So this is what Esther was talking about earlier with her little Houdini person. So the picture on the left is a buckle guard. And there's actually a little key that goes into that. And a lot of kids, they like to push buttons, right? And they can get, and there's federal law that, and testing that says that there has to be so much pressure on a buckle. And that is so that the child can't undo it. But again, we know these kids that can unbuckle a buckle. And that being said, there are some conventional seats where if a family said to us, my kid's unbuckling them, and that's it's always more than one thing, but we can kind of maybe point you in the direction of a car seat that has a more difficult buckle to unbuckle first, right? And maybe that's going to help you. But if it doesn't, again, there are these devices. I want to make sure that I say here and acknowledge that you want to make sure these are add-on products. So you want to make sure that if you're adding one of these Merit escape-proof products to your conventional car seat, you want to make sure the conventional car seat manufacturer says that it's okay. And we have relationships with these car seat manufacturers and their safety advocates. And I can go on my cell phone and dial up the person at Graco and say, I've got a kid that's escaping. I need to put one of Merit's escape-proof devices on. Can I do that? And they're going to tell me yes or no. Again, I know it's, again, April, with the special needs community, like you had said earlier, and you do what you got to do, right, to keep them
Right.
safe.
And I was just thinking, what a resource. I mean, I would be the parent looking at this going, all right, well, maybe can I add this to it? Can I not? But a call to you can connect you to the provider to say, you know what, that's not going to be safe, but this buckle will be.
100%. Yep. And then that piece on the right, I think that's the one that Esther has for her little Houdini at her house. And again, that has a little key that goes in the center. And if you lose the key, you know, we can use something else to get in there. But, you know, kids like to squeeze, or if they can get at that clip and they squeeze it in half, and most chest clips are a squeeze button like that, and they can squeeze that and get it open. And then they're getting their shoulders out. And next thing you know, they're standing up in the back seat of the car. So those two escape-proof mechanisms can be used separately or together on a traditional car seat most of the time. Again, we can verify that for you. And that there's a less expensive route that's pretty quick. And, you know, we make a call to Merritt, and our friend, his name is Shane Merritt. We make a call to him and say, listen, we need these. And they're lightweight, they're dropped in the mail, and they get to you in a reasonable amount of time. And here we have a fix for a conventional car seat without spending the thousands of dollars on a medical seat.
That's what we want.
Another seat on the market, this is called the Wallaroo, again, medical seat. But I wanted to just point out a few of these seats that the cost, $900, right? So yeah, and again, it's important that your PT, it's a team effort, right? We want to make sure that this is something that is going to be, for $900, we want it to be used for a lifetime, right? Perhaps it will be, perhaps it won't be, but there's different, like this one tilts. So sometimes kids that have breathing issues or swallowing or tubes, you know, and they need to be reclined a little bit. This is a good option for that. But again, just to point out, $900, and, you know, a conventional seat is probably, you know, there's a huge price range, but, you know, you can get a conventional seat for, you know, $300 and under, let's put it that way.
At the end, I'll take a few minutes and we can talk about funding, because as we're watching this and looking at all of this, of course, that's the other thing, safety first, but you're also ticking off the price tag.
Correct.
As a parent. So we can try and talk about that a little at the end.
Sure. And then there's this, the Columbia Spirit, again, the harness is up to 130. This one has low sides. And that's kind of something that we look for even in a conventional seat, because a lot of these times as children get heavier and they are the transfer from the wheelchair or from another device, they're heavy, right? So this one has low sides that perhaps will help you slide the child out versus having to lift the child. And again, $1,500 for something like this. Again, a lot of money for one of these.
Although I have to say, just knowing this seat over the years, it is so nice to see it. It looks so nice compared to what it used to look like. It is amazing, because I haven't seen the updated version of this, and they've made it look so much more youthful and fun.
Non-medical looking.
Yeah, it doesn't look so medical equipment-y. It looks like a kid's seat, you know? I love that. So that's great.
Again, we've come a long way. Like I said, I've been in this for 33 years from, you know, what you just mentioned, Kelly, the medical version. And now we have wheelchairs in all kinds of hot colors, and you can get the cami and the flowers, you can get leg brace. You know, we've come a long way, and it's important. It's very important.
Absolutely.
So you're right, Esther. I never saw the other version, but if it's morphed into this, people are at least keeping that also in their mind as they come up with these supports.
Yes. This is a booster seat. This can be used with or without that shield on the front, but I wanted to show this also, the accessories on the bottom for the child's feet. Sometimes even you and I and Esther, when your feet dangle, they get uncomfortable, they fall asleep, right? And kids complain that their feet fall asleep. That's, you know, we like to keep kids rear facing in car seats as long as possible. And they don't complain about their legs hurting because they're super flexible. When we turn them forward and their legs are dangling, they tell us that their legs hurt and they fall asleep. So this is some extra support that can be added. The tray can be added for extra support as well. And there is a swivel base on this one, so it actually turns to the door side. So to help get the child in and out that way. I haven't worked with this a lot, but people that I know that have worked with it really do like this. But again, we went from $900 to $1,500 to $2,500 now. So, you know, this is what happens here. So, again, we talked a little bit about this, but other things to consider, which, you know, who else is riding in the car? Are there other children back there? Are there other car seats? Because some of these medical seats especially are really big, right? So maybe we have 3 children that ride in the back seat, and one of these seats is a medical seat, and we're like, oh gosh, now we can't go together anywhere as a family because we don't all fit. You know, are children traveling with medical equipment? We want to make sure we're securing the medical equipment properly. Kids travel with oxygen. You know, we don't want the oxygen in the trunk. We want it well ventilated. So that means it's going to be in the passenger compartment. And how do we get that securely into the vehicle? Because, you know, Esther and I, knowing how crash dynamics work and teaching this curriculum to other people, you know, anything in the car that is loose is going to go flying in the event of a crash. You know, a water bottle or a cell phone is one thing. An oxygen tank could potentially really injure or kill somebody if it's flying around in a car. So, you know, we talk about those kind of things. You know, does the child need to be watched? You know, if you have a child back there that is escaping all the time, you know, does someone need to be back there and reinforce that you need to stay buckled, or, you know, pull the car over on the side of the road every single time? I think that's on the next slide. You know, that gets a little tiresome. You know, your 15-minute trip turns into an hour because you're pulling over on the side of the road because you're looking in your rearview mirror and your child's standing up. So, and then, you know, when we're not going to get into seat belts and top tethers and how these seats are actually secured in the car, but some of them do require extra hardware to be put into the vehicle so that the car seat, the medical seat especially, can be secured properly. So when we talk about the conventional seats, again, I focus on that because we know those are going to fit in cars, right? So when we have these large medical seats that may require extra tethers or extra routing to get them in correctly, you know, that's where the in-person appointment with the seat and the caregiver and the child works beautifully. So, and again, you know this, April, your families know this. The last bullet point there about rewarding the good behavior, you know what works for your child, or the caregiver knows, or the OT, how, you know, the PT gets the child to do something with whatever kind of reward it is. You know, so the conventional car seat is the first thing. Call us up, probably get that fixed right away. We can get a hold of that seat. Again, the team effort thing, getting everyone covered, knowing somebody who knows how to handle that insurance. I'm not an expert on the insurance, but, you know, getting someone involved that knows how to submit that properly so it's covered. We talked about the frequent stops. We talked about perhaps an adult or an older sibling being in the back seat. And again, you know, even with a typical needs child, if they're getting out of their seat and they're not appropriately restrained, it's super dangerous. So pulling over, as hard as it is, and I get it, I know it's hard, but, you know, you gotta pull over and you gotta buckle them and reinforce and reward good behavior. And, you know, that's there's some national resources. Again, Riley Children's Hospital is in, where is that, Esther? Illinois? Indiana. Riley's in Indiana. They are top notch on special needs. They actually are the resource that puts out the special needs curriculum that Esther and I were trained in. It's a 2-day course that we were extra training for special needs. They are the leaders in that. They have a fabulous website. And then the National Center for the Safe Transportation of Children with Special Healthcare Needs, you can contact them. And then Esther and I, you know, our information is here. And again, we are both very, because I guess one of my pet peeves is just, if you don't know the answer, just tell me, you know, kind of thing. So if I don't know the answer, I'm going to tell you, but we're going to go a step further and we're going to find someone who does know that answer. You know, we're not going to leave you hanging there per se. And it may take us a little while, but, you know, just being in this so long with, you know, together 40, 45 years of experience, and knowing the players in the car seat game and the manufacturers, and knowing knowing Shane Merritt, we can get on the phone and make a call and, get these people get back to us because we know them, and we can hopefully get these kids on the road a lot safer than some of them are. I think you're probably tired of listening to me.
Oh, no. And that's what this is all about. That's what you folks do. That's what the network does. No one can know everything, but if you get to the right person, if you get to Esther, if you get to Kelly with that question, if she doesn't know, she's going to research it. They may double back to me. I'll take a minute to just talk a little bit about the funding, because that's one of those issues that it's like the elephant in the room. And who does know the answer to the funding? I'm going to tell you, first of all, what little I know, and then again, it would always be a phone call and doing some research. But first of all, if we're talking a school-age child and a child with a disability, the school district becomes responsible at age 3. So if we're just talking transport from school, it's the school's responsibility. And I'm sure Esther and Kelly have both worked with school districts before getting some of these installed. Am I correct?
Yes.
So your school district, but most likely if your child needs it to ride the school bus, they need it to ride safely in your car. So then we're looking at insurance and working with the team that's your child's team. That would be the physician, the OT, the specialists that are working with your child. And everybody knows insurances are different. You might have one that your doctor just has to write the prescription and prescribe it, and you then get the equipment. Or it may take letters of statement of need from all the members of the team for your insurance to clear it. But so insurance would be next. And then there's state programs that would get involved with your child. Even if you have insurance, there's some programs that offer small, it may not meet all your needs, but some additional funding for what we call durable medical equipment. And so there's different state programs. One that's a phenomenal resource in our area, and I don't have a screen in that, but I will just mention the medical home program, because they can connect you to some of those resources. And then also, I'm kind of ticking down the list in order of who I would contact first. Looking for a grant, some kind of grant. There's private charities. There are some local private charities. And when all else fails, I would start contacting them. Then there's also, there's one equipment place that's part of our region. Well, they're in Hartford, but they service the whole state. They can take donations of durable medical equipment, and I don't know if they take car seats. They are state certified to refurbish them, and then they're at a lower cost to the consumer, and they also take insurance. But I would think, Esther and Kelly, I'm going to ask you to weigh in on that, because car seats are different, I think, than some durable medical equipment in terms of being refurbished.
Yeah, my guess is that they probably will accept them because typically car seats are only good for one crash. So if it has been involved in any type of collision, it wouldn't be a viable piece of equipment anymore. And because it becomes a liability to refurbish them and put them back out again, a lot of companies and organizations won't do the car seats because of that.
How about the harnesses? Things like the harnesses, though, those might be able to be refurbished or passed on. Yes.
Well, that all kind of depends as well. there's very specific ways to clean a car seat, whether it's a conventional one or a medical seat. And, you know, especially now in this time of COVID, you know, there's no it's basically warm water and soap, and the harnesses are basically a spot clean. And some fabrics can come off car seats and be put in the washer with mild detergent and then hang to dry. But, you know, if we're talking, you know, talking COVID, talking kids, you know, having bodily fluids, that becomes an issue too, where, you know, we can't guarantee that those things are properly cleaned. You can't use harsh chemicals, you can't steam clean, you can't do any of that. And I'm not 100% familiar on the medical seats, but conventional seats have expiration dates. So if generally a conventional seat is anywhere from a 6 to 10 year kind of thing, and why they have expiration dates is because it's kind of like an iPhone. You know, new technology, as Esther talked about before, how the Carrot booster seat looks a lot more kid friendly now. It's because of feedback. It's because caregivers were saying, you know, this seat looks ugly, for lack of a better word. Can we make it look a little better and still be safe? So, you know, we have new technology. We have plastic on the seats that degrade over time. Are people storing these seats correctly? There's no guarantee that someone has used a conventional or a medical seat and cared for it 100% properly. They can tell you that, but, you know, that's where the liability comes in. Whereas if the seat's been in a crash, if it hasn't been cleaned properly, if it's been hung in the basement by the harness straps and now there's mold on it, does that degrade the tension in the fabric? So all of those things where I'd be very surprised if DMEs were refurbishing car seats and putting them out there. I could be wrong, but I'd be surprised if that was happening.
Well, there you have it. That is why you go to the experts. And so in terms of funding, there probably isn't a refurbishing option for you. But like I said, we just heard from the experts. I'm so thrilled that I came in contact with this program, and to let you know that it is available here in Southeastern Connecticut. All the information's up there, but if you didn't get it, or there's a question or something you need, you know, you can contact me through the Connecticut Family Support Network. And once again, I would just like to thank Esther Pendola and Kelly Murphy. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yep, that was great. Thank you.